Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Today we're going to continue talking about our featured TLC program called Our Little Family. And as the quote said, life can be just as good small as it is tall. That's very optimistic. Hopefully they're living normal lives despite their condition. Again, we've got, Dan and Michelle.
Yeah.
And they are having a birthday party for their kids, Cece and Kate, who are the twins. And Jack's going to be there too. He's another kid, but it's not his birthday. But Cece and Kate have their birthday, and they're twins as well.
That's right. Now, we learned a little bit about Dan and Michelle's background, at least Michelle's background. She's got a mother called Nana that you'll see in the show. And she's average size, and she gave birth to two average-sized sons after Michelle. So sometimes it just happens. We're calling it spontaneous mutation in the genes, and that's what actually changes the development of bone tissue and makes their limbs smaller. They are suffering from short-limbed dwarfism. And again, your limbs are either your arms or your legs. If someone's lost a limb, it's hard to know what they lost unless you're more specific. So a limb could be either arms or legs. So Michelle grew up with a lot of self-confidence because her mother decided she wasn't going to treat her differently. She treated her just like her brothers who are average size. So Michelle has learned to be tough, and she's got a lot of determination and resolve.
Exactly. She's got a lot of self-confidence indeed, but of course she also has to deal with all the curveballs that life might throw at them, all the obstacles they have to overcome. Okay, everybody, let's begin our lesson today by reading through the entire contents, and then we'll come back to talk about it.
With 3 young kids to raise, the Hamels lead a hectic life, particularly when there are 3-year-old twins to potty train. Teaching a little person to use the toilet properly can present several physical challenges, but making the task even more problematic is Cece and Kate's complete indifference to the process. It's not long before Dan and Michelle resort to bribery in an effort to potty train the girls. Though the offer of lollipops and chocolate ultimately fails to spark the twins' interest. Later that week, the whole ordeal grinds to a halt when Dan and Michelle take a night off to celebrate their anniversary. Michelle's brother, called Uncle Jay by the kids, offers to babysit, but he takes a back seat when it comes to potty training. By the time Dan and Michelle return the next day, the girls are back in diapers. Finding well-fitting Halloween costumes is another dilemma Dan and Michelle have to grapple with. There's little time to make costumes by hand, and the store-bought ones seldom fit. Fortunately, Nana, who has experience altering Michelle's clothes, lends a hand and shortens the princess dresses and ninja outfit the kids have picked out. Michelle's also decided that she and Dan will dress up as part of some new Halloween traditions she wants to establish. After Jack picks out a taco costume for his father to wear, however, Dan's not sure how keen he is on this tradition. Luckily, the other traditions are fun for the whole family. The Hamels head to the Green Street Gardens Fall Festival, where they pick out pumpkins to carve, find their way through a corn maze, and play games with other children. With smiles all around, the Hamels get the perfect family snapshot before departing. For more Hamel family adventures, tune in to TLC's Our Little Family this May.
All right, it's time to talk about today's lesson, Life in a Little Family, Day 2 of our program about life in a little family, or to be more specific, Our Little Family, which is a show on TLC. So let's take a look here at the first paragraph. It says, with 3 young kids to raise, the Hamels lead a hectic life, particularly when there are 3-year-old twins to potty train. Okay, so again, we've got Dan and Michelle Hamel, and they've got 3 kids. And of course, if you're raising a family of young kids, you know life can be hectic. Hectic here just means you've got all sorts of activity. Things are frantic. It's kind of difficult to organize things, and things are changing all the time. Your job could be hectic, for example, and maybe if your job is is hectic, you might think about retiring and becoming a farmer down in Nantou or something like that.
So they're trying to do something very difficult, and all families have been through this. They're trying to potty train their 3-year-old twins. Actually, that's kind of old to be potty trained. Most parents start potty training in their 2s when kids are in their 2s. But you know what? All kids are different, and you kind of have to go with them and what they want to do, what they feel like trying. When you potty train kids, you teach them how to use a real toilet instead of using diapers that they wear until they're ready to go off the diapers. It's scary when you potty train, though, because sometimes you think that they've learned how to use the toilet, and then one day they kind of wet themselves because they can't get there or something's wrong.
They can't hold it, yeah.
Potty training's hard. Teaching a little person to use the toilet properly can present several physical challenges. You can imagine toilets can be high for little ones, especially these are 3-year-olds who are dwarfs in addition to being small. They're smaller than 3-year-olds. So they're trying to teach these kids how to use the toilet, but the physical challenges are making this task very problematic. Even more problematic is that Cece and Kate's attitude towards this is complete indifference.
Ooh.
They really don't care. They don't care at all about using the toilet. Hey, diapers are great for them, right? Some kids actually want to use the toilet because it makes them feel like they're bigger, like they're, not little babies anymore. But some of them, wow, they're really indifferent. If someone's indifferent to you, they don't really pay a lot of attention to you. They couldn't care less what you're doing. But these kids just they aren't interested at all in the potty training.
Exactly. And a lot of times, of course, you might pretend to be indifferent to situations when, in fact, you really are concerned about something. We all want to look cool and stuff like that. But we try to feign indifference or pretend that we aren't affected by something when, in fact, we really are. But again, this is problematic for them because they're indifferent. They don't really care. Well, we could potty train or we don't care either way. I don't mind doing my business in my diapers. You're going to come and change it for me anyway. In fact, it's kind of fun when you change my diapers for me. So I don't really care whether I'm potty trained or not. So yes, they are indifferent to the process. Indifference is the noun. Indifferent is the adjective. And it's not long before Dan and Michelle resort to bribery in an effort to potty train the girls. Though the offer of lollipops and chocolate ultimately fails to spark the twins' interest. This sounds kind of familiar. I tried to use bribery with my daughter because she just doesn't like to brush her teeth. And if she doesn't brush her teeth, she might get cavities or things like that, and I certainly don't want that to happen to her. So I resorted to bribery. That's when you offer somebody something so that they'll do something to you. Usually this is a bad word. It's like maybe criminals, people in the mafia or something will bribe government officials to accept certain contracts or something. Otherwise, if you don't accept my offer, then I know where you live, I know where your kids go to school, stuff like that. So, that's more extortion, but bribery means you offer people money to do your favors. And if you resort to something, that means you're using this as your last choice, okay? You don't want to do it that way, but it seems like the only thing you can do, so you resort to bribery.
Yeah, and you're adopting that strategy because nothing else is working, but it's not it's positive thing you want to do. It's like your last choice. So they don't want to resort to bribery and have to say, oh, kids, if you'll go use the toilet, we'll give you some candy. But that's what they did. They offered lollipops and chocolate. But this ultimately fails to spark the twins' interest. Ultimately here means at the end of everything, after everything has been said and done, it still failed. Those girls took the candy and ate it and still would go in their diapers. So it was a failed try, I guess. The bribery didn't work. If you spark something, it means you ignite something, you start something. A spark is what happens when you're building a fire. If there's a spark of fire, then it'll start burning a lot more. So you can spark someone's interest by getting them excited. Ultimately, these girls weren't able to to get interested in it. So I think you could say that they really did fail to spark their interest. Yeah.
Right. Maybe they offered them a lollipop for every piece of poop that they dropped into the toilet. But ultimately, the girls probably had too many lollipops and they thought, well, you can only have so many lollipops a day. I'm going to do my business in the diapers as usual. So again, the plan ultimately failed. In the end, it failed. It did not spark their interest. And later that week, of course, the whole ordeal grinds to a halt when Dan and Michelle take a night off to celebrate their anniversary. So they were trying to do this all along every day. Of course, sometimes with kids, you have to keep doing these things every day.
Oh, yeah.
If you interrupt the process, then basically you have to start all over again. You have to start again from the beginning. And that's basically what happened here. Dan and Michelle wanted to celebrate their anniversary, their wedding anniversary. Let's go out. Let's go to a nice restaurant and, paint the town red. Let's go dancing and stuff like that to celebrate our marriage. So things grind to a halt. That means the process totally stopped. It did not proceed at all.
Yeah, and if it's an ordeal, it's something pretty awful that you have to go through. And it lasts for a long time. What an ordeal. Maybe sometimes you've had to do a project at work and it just seems like it'll never be finished. But one day it does finish up and you think, oh, what an ordeal. I'm glad I survived. Well, this whole ordeal grinds to a halt or stops when they take that night off to celebrate. Now, Michelle's brother, who is called Uncle Jay by the kids, that's his nickname, he offers to babysit. So he comes and spends time with the kids while his sister and her husband go off for dinner to celebrate their wedding anniversary. But it says here he takes a back seat when it comes to potty training. If you take a back seat to something, you aren't driving the issue. You're just kind of not too concerned about what's going on. You can have projects at work, and sometimes you're working on something and your boss comes in and says, this new project takes priority. So that project you are working on is going to have to take a back seat. So it's not priority right now. You're not working on it.
Yeah, if you're in the back seat, you're not driving, you let someone else do it. So he said, well, your potty training those kids is your problem, not mine. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm going to take a back seat. So the process ground to a halt, and they'd have to start over again. And by the time Dan and Michelle return the next day, the girls are back in diapers. And of course, diapers, are what kids wear when they can't control their bodily functions. I should mention that I think in England they call those nappies, whereas in the US we call them diapers. Okay, that brings us to the midway point of today's lesson. Let's take a break now and turn things over to our beloved Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天要看的是这对父母要如何训练只有3岁大的双胞胎，要帮助他们做 potty train， 也就是如厕的训练。首先来看到在第一段的第二个句子提到Teaching a little person to use the toilet properly can present several physical challenges. 其实呢，要教导一个这么小的人正确的使用马桶 properly， 也就是有适当的正确的意思，可能会引起很多身体上面的挑战。在这里的 present 有引起问题或者是造成困难的意思。But making the task even more problematic is Sissy and Kate's complete indifference to the process. 在后面用逗号 but 连接另外一个句子，它的主词是 making the task even more problematic。让这样子的任务变得更艰难的是什么呢？是这一对姐妹，她们对整个过程完全漠不关心。在这里的 indifference 用来当作名词，有冷漠或者是不关心的意思。举个例子来说 His father often treats him with indifference， 代表着他父亲常常对他是漠不关心的。而后面的句子继续提到It's not long before Dan and Michelle resort to bribery in an effort to potty train the girls, though the offer of lollipops and chocolate ultimately fails to spark the twins' interest. 在这里呢，我们首先来看到前面的句子 Not long before， 其实呢在这个呢还没过多久，并没有过多久就发生了这样子的事情。而他们做了怎么样子的一个采取的措施呢？在这里提到 Dan and Michelle resort to bribery， 他们呢诉诸于呢贿赂这件事情。 resort to 当作动词，有诉诸于或者是求助于什么的意思。像我们常常听到的诉诸于武力，你就可以说 resort to force。 虽然后来提供了棒棒糖跟巧克力，还是 fails to， 还是没有办法呢来激起这段双胞胎他们的兴趣。在这里用的动词 spark 当作动词，就是有点燃跟激励的意思。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back. We're talking about the little family that has a TV show on TLC called Our Little Family. We've got the Hamels and their kids Jack, Cece, and Kate. We've kind of focused our attention mostly on Cece and Kate, who are the two twins. We talked about their birthday party in day one and their beds that their dad built them. And now we're talking about their ordeal of having to be potty trained. And the girls just don't have any interest in it. Hey, why do I have to try with this? I'm just going to wear the diaper and, go to the bathroom when I want to. I don't have to worry about reaching up to that toilet. I bet they have a stool for them and something that makes it easier for them to get to. But that toilet's probably pretty big for little 3-year-olds, right? Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. You might have a little stepping stool there and a little accessory added to the toilet to help them out there. Or you might even have your own small mini toilet for them.
Yeah.
If you can afford it. But,
my sister gets those. They're not expensive, but they're plastic and they're easy to clean. And so, yeah, they're much lower on the floor.
Okay, so eventually kids got to be potty trained.
Yeah.
But that's one of their problems here. Hopefully, eventually, the kids will be potty trained and they'll be normal just like everybody else. And let's move on now to the next paragraph. They're preparing for a Halloween party. Of course, if you're going to a Halloween party, you want to wear a costume.
Yeah.
Dressed up like your favorite cartoon character or a ghost or a witch or anything you can imagine. But for them, finding well-fitting Halloween costumes is another dilemma that Dan and Michelle have to grapple with. A costume, of course, is clothes you wear for a special occasion, especially if you're dressing up as another character. Cosplay people wear costumes of their favorite anime characters and stuff like that, like Mario or Attack on Titan or whatever. And, of course, if it's well-fitting, it fits well. It's not too big for you. It's not too small. It fits just right. And that, of course, is a dilemma for Dan and Michelle. A dilemma is a situation in which you have to make a choice, okay? It's a dilemma. Gee, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I go traveling for a year before I go to university, or should I start university right off? That's the dilemma. I need to make this difficult decision.
And Dan and Michelle are grappling with this dilemma. If you grapple with something, we often use this word when we talk about wrestling, the sport of wrestling, where, the guys try to pin each other down on the mat in a gym. Well, here, they're obviously not wrestling, but they're engaging in a struggle, and you can use grapple that way. It's more figurative than literal. So it's not easy because these Halloween costumes are all too big. And there's very little time to make costumes by hand, which means Michelle or Dan would sew them or put something together with glue. So to the rescue comes Nana. That's their grandma, the little girl's grandma, or Michelle's mother, Nana. She has experience altering Michelle's clothes. Remember, Michelle was her daughter, and she knows what it's all about. So if you alter clothes, you change the size. You can either make them bigger or smaller. Alter means to change, but don't use other verbs that mean to change when you're talking about clothes. We wouldn't modify a dress. We wouldn't, let's see, we wouldn't modify. What are some other words for change? Modify.
Change, modify, change, modify.
There's one more word I'm thinking of. But alter is the specific verb you use when you want to change the size or the fit of clothes.
Yes, I sometimes have this dilemma when I buy trousers. I'm both tall and fat, and oftentimes they only make clothes for tall and thin people or short and fat people. So I need to have my clothes altered if I buy them or just simply have them tailor-made. But they don't really have time to make these costumes themselves by hand, and the ones they buy in the store don't fit. But Nana, who's their grandmother, of course, she has experience altering the clothes for Michelle, so she lends a hand. She helps out and shortens the princess dresses and ninja outfit the kids have picked out. So I guess they bought these costumes at a store.
Yeah.
Here in Taipei, of course, if you're going to a Halloween party, you could go down to Hochijan, and there are some stores there that sell Halloween costumes, and you can have them altered if you're too small or too big for the outfits.
Yeah, or there's a store on my corner that sells costumes at Halloween.
Okay.
They're not cheap, and they're beautiful little dresses, especially for the girls. So the mom lends a hand. She helps out and shortens the princess dresses and ninja outfit. A ninja is one of those characters that originated in Japan, and they're a person they're very skilled in ninjutsu. What it means in Japanese is spy. So that's kind of a fun costume for a little boy. The kids pick those out themselves. If you pick out something, that's what you select from a range of choices. And Michelle's also decided that she and her husband Dan are going to dress up as part of a new Halloween tradition that she wants to establish. When you're a young mom and a young dad and you're raising your own kids, you want to set up your own traditions. Maybe you keep doing some things that you did in your own family before you got married, but maybe you want to try something new. So if you establish something, you set it up. And that's Michelle's goal. She wants to really put together some great traditions for her own kids that they can do every year and remember that forever.
And I guess the tradition she wants to establish is to dress up for Halloween every year. Despite our dwarfism, we're still going to be like everybody else. Why not? Who cares? And after Jack picks out a taco costume for his father to wear, remember Jack is one of the kids.
Yeah.
He's picking this out for Dan, and Dan's not sure how keen he is on this tradition. Here we have the word keen, which means that you have some kind of enthusiasm for something or something's really great, really unique. But the phrase here is to be keen on something.
Yeah.
That means you actually approve of this or you like it. And we often use this in the negative. I'm not so keen on going to the mountains today because it might rain and there might be traffic jams.
Yeah, that's true. And the Brits use it a lot more than Americans, but we know what it means. And it's true, we use the negative form more. Now, in the last paragraph, it says, luckily, the other traditions are fun for the whole family. The Hamels head to Green Street Gardens Fall Festival, where they pick out pumpkins to carve. Oh, that's one of my favorite parts of Halloween. And then they find their way through a corn maze and play games with other children. So this particular Green Street Gardens Fall Festival is a place where you go to enjoy yourself. It's kind of like an amusement park, but only at certain times of the year. If you've never seen a maze, it's one of those things where there's a network of paths and hedges or trees, hedges usually, and you can't see where you're going. And it's supposed to be a puzzle, and you're trying to find which path will lead you out. It's kind of fun, but you can get lost in those.
You certainly can. I think there's a maze near the Taipei airport, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the name of that park.
Oh, cool.
But there is a maze made out of hedges there. Oh. And this is a place people can go to prepare for Halloween. They can carve pumpkins there, or at least pick them out, and go through a corn maze. They can play with other kids. And with smiles all around, the Hamels get the perfect family snapshot before departing. A snapshot, of course, is a picture, usually a casual picture, not a formal picture, but they're getting a snapshot with their smartphone or something like that, and they're doing this before they leave, before they depart. Depart is just a fancy way of saying someone leaves.
Yeah, to leave to go somewhere else. Okay, guys, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher for a few minutes, and then we'll be back to wrap it up.
接着在第二段我们要看到的是另外一个难题。Finding well-fitting Halloween costumes is another dilemma Dan and Michelle have to grapple with. 在这里的主词从 finding 开始到 costumes 指的呢就是找到合身的万圣节服装。这里的 well-fitting 代表着就是合身的意思。而这是另外一个 dilemma 困境，是他们所必须要去呢解决的问题。而 grapple with就本来是有抓住扭打的意思，在这里则是有努力解决问题的意思。Dilemma 我们常常讲到呢，就是进退两难的局面。Face a dilemma 就是代表着要面对困境，而如果你身处在一个进退两难的局面，你就可以说 be in a dilemma。还好的呢是他们有一个很棒的祖母，在这里第二段中间提到 Fortunately, Nana, who has experience altering Michelle's clothes, lends a hand and shortens the princess dresses and ninja outfit the kids have picked out. 在这里的 Nana 也就是 Michelle 的妈妈，就是这对双胞胎的祖母呢，他们非常的有经验，来伸出了援手。她呢就做了 Michelle 呢，她非常有经验，以前常常修改 Michelle 的衣服。在这里的修改我们用了动词alter， 比如说 to alter the coat to make it shorter， 也就是有把大衣改短的意思。这位奶奶呢，祖母伸出了援手 lends a hand， 然后就把他们的公主服装以及忍者装呢做了一个修改，使他们能够 well-fitting 合身。这里的 outfit 指的是在特殊场合穿的全套服装。接着我们再继续看到最后一段的第二句 The Hamels head to the Green Street Gardens Fall Festival,where they pick out pumpkins to carve, find their way through a corn maze, and play games with other children. 其实呢，在克服了这些东西之后呢，这一家人前往了这个 Fall Festival 这个节庆日，在那里 where 要特别注意，代表的是地点。他们在那里做了哪些事呢？挑选了南瓜来雕刻。To carve something 代表着就是去雕刻某事的意思，而且呢也在这个玉米的迷宫当中呢能够穿越过去。在这里的 maze 有迷宫的意思，做了很多有趣的事情。在这里的倒数第二个句子提到 With smiles all around, the Hamels get the perfect family snapshot before departing. 在他们要离开之前呢，还拍了一张完美的全家福。我们常讲到呢 to get a snapshot， 也就是拍摄快照的意思。而这里的 depart 则是有离开离去的意思。如果你想要知道更多有关于这个家庭的，别忘记 tune into to TLC's Our Little Family This May， 在5月就可以收看 TLC 频道的小家庭进行曲。OK， 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
Thanks for joining us, guys, and we hope you'll join us again soon. For more English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.